A very good afternoon to you all, and kind regards to the principals, teachers, and the school management of NG Vartak English Medium High School, Srimati Taramai Memorial Academy, and Padmashri Bhausab Vartak College. Well, before starting a presentation, I would like to say that during a presentation, there is always a thank you note at the end of the presentation. But here, I would like to put it right in the beginning, and I would like to express my gratitude towards my teachers uh, for shaping me and laying the foundation for what I am today. Well, I surely want to tell you that it wouldn't have been possible without your efforts right in my childhood. Talking about teachers, unfortunately, I lost one of my mentor and guide this year, late Professor Dr. Charles Pinto. I wish to dedicate this first lecture of the series to him, and I pray that wherever you are, sir, you will be very happy to watch this. Then there's always a special teacher in your life. For me, it is Dr. Avinash D'Souza sir. The special part about him is that I never got to be a direct student to him, but yet I would always feel like one. I have, ever since I stepped into the post graduation in psychiatry, I have idolized him and watched him from the sidelines and learned his ways of promoting child and adolescent psychiatry, especially the school mental health seminars. And whatever I have been able to do so far with the Smile project, I owe it to you, sir. And thank you for your support and guidance that you have been always giving me. Here, I would also like to thank you for recognizing the Smile project as a part of the BPS activity. And currently, on the behalf of everyone, I would congratulate you for being elected as the president of the society. So briefly, going through the outline of the seminar ahead, I'll be introducing to the topic and the reasons why we have selected this topic today, and giving you a brief overview about the SMILE project. This will be followed by the main presentation by Sir on various modes of carrying ahead the school mental health care despite the change in the online education system. This will be followed by a direct note to the teachers by Ms. Ami Chaudhary, and lastly, it will be followed by a Q&A session. So for the Q&A session, I would request all the teachers to drop in their queries and concerns in the chat box, which we will definitely address in the end. So what is SMILE? SMILE, like ma'am said, it stands for School Mental Health and Integrative Learning and Education. Currently, it is enrolled in 6 schools in Virar, and basically it has 3 different structures, majority of them being the student workshops, secondly, the teacher training programs, and of course, the parenting seminars. In totality, it is basically an annual program which takes about 9 to 10 months of the academic year. That means on an average, I take around 2 to 3 lectures in a month. Why there was a need to do this? Well, when we are talking about students, we are talking about the teenagers. We are talking about the generation Z, that is children who are born after 1995. So when we are talking about this group of teenagers or children, we're talking about different challenges and struggles that they go through. For a moment, let us just step into their shoes and acknowledge what struggles they are going through. They are growing up in a world where there's so much change in different activities and different source of informations, and it is changing at a very rapid pace. We're talking about teenage and adolescent phase in our lives, where emotional and social learning skills are getting developed. These children are flooded with so much information, and add to it the social media influence in their lives. At times, this can get extremely overwhelming. And definitely for this generation, growing up is becoming very difficult. What are the challenges that they face? Well, academic and career choices are always there. There is continuous parental pressure. There is lack of financial support, and of course, the lack of appropriate guidance. Peer pressure, bullying, especially in this age, we are talking about cyberbullying as well. And since the last 1.5 years, we are going through a new, I would say, a problem that these teenagers are facing, that is social isolation. To understand the gravity of any problem, statistics are the way to do it. The World Health Organization has stated that around 1 in 5 children or adolescents, they are experiencing mental health issues. But then majority of them are not seeking help, or either they are not receiving that care. half of all the mental health conditions have been started in the teenage group, the adolescent age group, especially around 13 to 14 years of age. Suicide. It is the third leading cause of death in age group of 15 to 19 years old. The National Mental Health Survey in 2016 revealed that 98 lakh young Indians, that is almost like 1% of our population, in the age group of 13 to 17 years are in need of active interventions, which I am sure that they are not getting at the right time. These figures are definitely alarming to say the least. Again, 12.5% of children uh, which are less than 16 years of age are facing psychiatric disorders. Now that equals to around 6 to 7 students in a class of 50. And that is definitely a huge number. Again, more than 10,000 students have committed suicide in the last 2 years, which amounts to approximately 28 suicides in a day. Oh, that is definitely alarming. This is a simple graphical representation of what I was talking about. Over the years, the number of suicides are increasing. And in every seminar, when I talk about student suicides, I tell this fact that whenever there is a suicide in our society, we collectively as a society are failing. Made with the parents, the relatives, the teachers, the counselors, psychiatrists, everyone as a society are failing whenever we hear about a suicide. So there was a need to do something about this. After I completed my post graduation, I had done a senior registrarship in Nair Hospital in the school mental health clinic. So whatever experience I had gathered from there, I wanted to implement it in my area of practice. So where do I start? The easiest way to do is was to approach my own school because I knew that the door was always open. I approached my principal, and in no time she agreed to it. There was this beginning. In 2018, we started with this first lecture where I had taken a parenting seminar on the topic of de-addiction awareness. Thereafter, I made it a structure, and we continued with different workshops in different schools. The student workshops used to be an interactive kind of a discussion. There would be group discussions, and there were various topics that I'll be telling you later. Most of them were concentrated on the life skill activities. As I've told, these age groups, there is a lot of emotional development, and which can be categorized into different life skills. The workshops basically involve the students sitting in groups and discussing about each emotion, enacting them in form of skits, and then thereafter giving a feedback. After the feedback, there used to be a proper direction towards whatever was discussed in the group, and there used to be some homeworks before the next workshop. So these were the main topics that I had taken in the SMILE program. Most of them concentrated on anti-bullying, gender sensitization, workshops that were concentrated on self-awareness and self-esteem, managing exam stress, using critical and creative thinking, and of course, sexuality education. Then, of course, came the teacher training programs, because I believe the teacher is the second parent of the child. And the children spend a lot of time in school. So definitely the responsibility that teachers have towards their students had to be taken care of. So whenever the teacher training programs were held, the workshops were basically directed towards identifying the red flags, the signs and symptoms of any kind of a psychological issues in their students, understanding them, and then screening them, and then of course the referral part comes. So these were undertaken during the SMILE program. But then, of course, in March 2020, everything came to a standstill. The classrooms were locked, the school's gates were locked, and everything, we were just confused what to do next. Well, when I talk about students, of course, for the initial few weeks, probably they were very happy. They had a huge vacation in front of them. Exams were cancelled and everything was postponed, and they had plenty of time for themselves. But then, of course, that was an uncertain period. So there had to be there was a need to do something else. We all tried to adapt to this new normal. Even I tried to do so. And at that time, I came to know that how difficult this is to use the online kind of a mode to uh, reach out to the students. The students who used to be sitting in circles and discussing groups and enacting skits had reduced to simple small windows on the screen. It was very difficult to try to get the message across. But yet we tried. We are humans, we adapt. Even the game that we used to play with high fives and hugging and playing around, it was reduced to a simple slide on a screen. But then what next? So here is where we need to understand and take this ahead with certain modifications. We are humans, we have to adapt. This is the new normal. We cannot ignore what change is there in front of us. The online education will stay and it will be a part of the current education system. So anyways, before this lockdown started, the mental health of children was anyways ignored. More so after the lockdown, it just took a back step. But then we had to do something. So that is why I requested Dr. Avinash Jisdar sir to initiate this program again with his expertise about how to carry this forward. When I put this slide, the answer, I'm sure the answer is yes. We all are missing the students. And I just wanted to share a part over here. I have been seeing children since the last 1 year. Every child, when they come to my clinic, my first question to them is, बेटा तुला शाळेत जायला आवडतं तेव्हाचा पिरियड आवडतो की आता घरी बसून तुला मजा येते? I'm sure none of the student have replied ki no, I am enjoying right now. So they are missing you all. They are missing you teachers. They are missing the hugging. They are missing the mischief. They are missing the the part where they used to disturb you during classes, and they are missing the punishments too. So we need to do something, and we have to carry this ahead. Before I hand it over to sir, I just want to acknowledge the efforts that you teachers have taken so far. For me, you are the unsung hero. You are the COVID warrior who was always at the sideline. But then you are taking the biggest responsibility right now of taking the education ahead. So I thank you and I acknowledge your efforts. And let us just go ahead with what sir is going to advise us regarding the same. So thank you. Over to you, sir.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and it's an absolute pleasure and an honor to be here. At the outset, thank you, Kirti, for all those kind words. I mean, I feel very humbled when you talk about me in that way. I'm primarily a psychiatrist, but I also work with schools, and I'm here not only as a school psychiatrist, but I'm also here as a parent of an 8th standard kid who has had his entire 7th standard online, as now has entered the 8th standard online. So I totally understand with older kids how the online system works. And the key issue here is not about online schooling, because I think the debate about whether online schooling is good or online schooling is bad is over. We know online schooling is here to stay, so we don't have a choice to debate that aspect. The only thing that we have telling us is whether mental health of children can be maintained while we're looking at this online schooling. And it's very important that the mental health of children be maintained, because I've had a large number of children who have become uh, upset, angry, sad, aggressive, irritable, primarily because they have not been able to go outdoors. It's very difficult to contain a kid indoor and tell him, you can't go out and play, you can't go this. Earlier, we used to be telling them, please throw away your tab, throw away your laptop, go out, play cricket, play football. And now we've been telling them, be at home. And barring online entertainment, we really don't have much entertainment in smaller houses that we can provide them. There are activities that you can do, but we need to look at their mental health as well. I've had children who have gone for a drive with their parents, seen their school from outside, have been upset, have broken down, have felt like crying, have been a little somewhere when it comes to looking at their school. So multiple things have happened. They miss school, they miss their friends, they miss their teachers. They also don't like online schooling because the real feel of a classroom is lost. They also don't like the fact that their parents keep hovering around them. that सीधे बैठो, ये करो, सीधे ध्यान से पढ़ो. So there's always, this whole thing about parents hovering around them. So there's one other reason why they probably don't like the online schooling. Well, the exam system is a little easy to manipulate in an online mode, and many of them are masters at that. I'm not saying all of them cheat, but yes, I have seen some of them do. So these things do happen. I have seen that some today, of course, children, we've even overcome that by having 2 cameras and all sorts of things to look at the child. But I think what's very important is how do we cater to the mental health. बच्चे के मानसिक स्वास्थ्य को हम कैसे देखेंगे इस online period में. How are we going to look at the mental health of children during this online period? And what's very important during this online period is that children have to keep communicating. Always remember when Kirti spoke about lectures and classroom workshops and school workshops, which were done for 50 and 100 children in groups. We had an auditorium where we could do that. He spoke about these children being transformed into windows and we not being able to really do much for them in an online setting. He's absolutely right. And one of the things which we have done is we have had to garner more manpower who could sort of work from their homes, more mental health professionals who could talk to these children in small groups of 6 and 8 and 10. So it's easier to handle the number of windows that you're seeing rather than handle them in a class of 30 or 40. So we divided each class into further sub batches of 10 and we tried to do some intervention for them online. Not too much of counseling. We tried to keep it as interactive as possible. We also tried to see children in person as far as possible in our consulting rooms, making sure that there was no crowd, making sure that social distancing was maintained. But at the same time, what we've also done is we've had to do a lot of sessions online with children. And let me tell you, children are very comfortable with the online mode. They have adapted to it. And we also have adapted to it. So that is something which we have done. What's also very important is that a lot of the interventions have become online. So children fill a Google form, we assess that form. Children in lifetime type and we type back again. So these kind of interventions wherein the child is asked to draw something, show it to you online. You ask him about the drawing, you assess the drawing. There are multiple things that can be done in an online mode to assess the mental health of the child. What's very difficult is sometimes if the parent is in the same room, the child may not open up and speak to you. So you may have to speak to the child separately, request the child to be out, call the parent separately, and all that may happen in the same sitting. So these things very often happen. You very often also, one of the disadvantages of an online mode is that in your clinic, you can talk to a child alone. But in the online mode, sometimes the parents try to listen and eavesdrop and they try to see ki kya ho raha hai. And very often they might also try and unko janna hai ki bachcha kya kar raha hai. So they very often try to intervene. So these things happen in the middle of a session and the child does not get the privacy to talk to you. He's not left alone to talk to you. So this also is something which goes wrong. But finally, I think smaller groups are the key towards online mental health interventions. Smaller groups are the key to, reaching out to more children. You cannot do it in larger groups. And small interventions, छोटे interventions जो 15 मिनट के हो, 20 मिनट के हो, वो बहुत जरूरी है because we have the children don't sit for a long time. We have to understand that their attention span is lower and they do not sit for more than 15-20 minutes. So sometimes smaller I would say shorter attention spans, so 15-20 minute interventions wherein the children are freed in 15 to 20 minutes, and you can also do more groups. So do groups of 10, do around 10 different groups for 15 minutes each. It works a lot better. Another thing also that comes into one of the things which I have done with some schools is we have allowed children from a particular school interact with children from another particular school and interact with children from abroad. And this has broadened their horizon with regard to mental health. We also made children prepare presentations on mental health and present them to us online, and we've had conversations with them to create awareness, like anti-bullying, cyberbullying. Multiple things have been done in an online medium. What's also very important is that, uh, of course, a parent group can always be organized online because they are adults and it's easier for them to do. Giving the children small one page handouts which have got just 8 or 10 sentences, and asking them to reflect on those sentences, and then using that as a conversation medium for 15 minutes, wherein we have a short take home message at the end of 15 minutes, is something which works very well. um, yes, teachers miss the children miss the teachers, there is no doubt about it. Teacher mental health is equally important, and I think Ami will of course address that situation. But I think what's very important is that the children, the teachers, all need help in this period. It's a tough period. COVID hasn't been easy for anyone. I always say COVID was a nagging mother-in-law that we have got used to. Now the mother-in-law is here to stay, and we have to manage the mother-in-law till probably she's no more. So we have to try and work around COVID. The difficulty is particularly for the 10 standards, because they are in the last year of their school. It was a year they wanted to enjoy themselves in school, and sadly they don't even know whether the 10th exam will happen, how it will happen, how will they be graded, what will happen after that. So that becomes worrisome. The 9th and 10th are the ones who are the most vulnerable, and they need to be looked at. The primary kids don't like the system of education because they like a teacher talking to them in school. I wonder how preschool children are coping. It's far more tougher for them. And smaller children definitely have a lot of issues with this whole online system. We also conduct small sessions on aggression, parent-child interaction. Please encourage parents in your school to spend a lot of time with their children, because it's very nice as the parents are at home, the children are at home. There's a lot of time that can be spent. There's a lot of exchange that can happen. That is something which is very, very important. And I think one of the greatest advantages of the online education system is parents and children aren't fighting about waking up early and getting ready and brushing the teeth and doing all that, because it's all at home. It happens very easily and seamlessly. Parents are happy in a way that they don't have to get up 2 hours before school starts like they would have to normally. They can get up half an hour earlier and the child can still attend school. The disadvantage is the school environment, which I think there's no replacement for. There's no replacement for the wooden benches. There's no replacement for the blackboard. There's no replacement for the chalk. There's no replacement for the teacher in a classroom. There's no replacement for a monitor. There's no replacement for children's names being written on the board when they talk. There's no replacement for calendars and remarks. There's no replacement for the child standing out of the class. I always remember many years ago when I was as young as Kirti. I'm still young, but when I was as young as him, I went to one of the schools, and we had I had to meet the principal about doing a program there, and there were 4 or 5 children who were kneeling down outside his room. And I asked them, why are you all made to kneel down? And they were very happy kneeling down. I said, you all are punished, but you all are very happy. So they said, we haven't done our homework, so we are punished, and because we were not in class today, we won't do tomorrow's homework also. So the thing is, so they were very happy. So there are a lot of joys of being in school. As he said, children even miss the punishment, so that's also there. So I think there's a huge amount of joy which the school gives you, which you can't, I think, replace at any point of time. Not knowing what you're going to get for lunch, and your tiffin arrives and you open it. There's a small joys which a school gives you, which probably now you're aware of what you're going to get for lunch. You don't have a choice. You have to eat what's there. The school canteen, if it's good, it's missed a lot by children. So those are also things which are missed. So I think all that seamlessly makes up for their mental health. I just want to end here by saying a few things that I think, of course, like Kirti, I would appreciate all the teachers. It's amazing that the kind of work and effort that they put in. But I think most importantly, children and their mental health is important. So please make children speak more and listen less. Make children express themselves. Make children come in small groups and discuss their emotions. Those who want to discuss it one-on-one are also welcome. And the most important facet, I think, is that we have to realize that children are not diagnoses. It doesn't matter to me if a child is depressed, upset. What's important is if the child can't cope, I'm there to help him. I remember long ago when I visit schools, I very often take a walk in the entire school in the lunch break. And I very often end up talking to a child who I find sitting alone in the playground, or I find talk to a child who's sitting alone and having lunch and not having anyone to give him company. And very often these are the children that need more help than the ones who are mischievous. Children who are quiet in your online classrooms need to be picked up and handheld compared to children who are, playing the mischief. They might be normal adolescents who don't need help. Children who are laughing and giggling don't need so much help as the ones who don't laugh when you crack a joke. So I think those are the things, those are the tips that I would want to give. And once again, I thank Kirti for having me here. In fact, he reminds me of a much younger version of myself, and I'm very proud of him. And I wish him all the best with his Smile project. Bombay Psychiatric Society is always of the endeavor to support people who are doing great work, and we're here to support Kirti all the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was really kind of you. And whatever tips you have given, that those were really insightful. We'll definitely be using them, and I'm sure the teachers have found it very useful as well. Moving ahead, I would request Ami to take care about the teachers and their issues and how to manage the stress around this online education. Ami, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Kirti. So yes, I would be directly talking to the teachers today. And first of all, like Dr. Kirti said, you've done an amazing job in the past 1.5 year where everybody was confused, but you still stuck to all your students and you did amazingly well. So yes, definitely you all are the unsung heroes of COVID. All right, so I want to straight away go on to the fact that the mental health of teachers is definitely affected. And some of the things that I would like to highlight over here is that there has been a lot of anxieties that has come up when we talk about teachers, like how am I delivering the information properly, is my student understanding, is am I speaking properly through the online medium? Is the network okay? I feel the network is okay, but is the child actually understanding what I'm saying? And most importantly, there are episodes of self doubt कि me as a teacher, क्या मैं जो कर रही हूँ या मैं जो कर रहा हूँ वो उनको हेल्पफुल हो रहा है क्या, जो मेरा एम है, जो मेरा मकसद है, क्या वो फुलफिल हो पा रहा है क्या, am I able to teach because I'm a teacher? So these doubts come up a lot. And then of course there are physical symptoms, like there is sleep disturbance, there is decrease in appetite. So these physical symptoms also come up, but then there's a lot of stress here, and so I just want to talk about that part of teachers, that you guys need to give yourselves the time to deal with it. It is like D'Souza sir said, it is the mother-in-law who is not actually going, it is here to stay. So we will have to not question, there is no option of questioning, but we will have to accept and we will have to adapt ways to deal with it. Like Dr. Viktor Frankl says, ki when we are not able to change the situation, we are forced to change ourselves because we are just not able to change the situation. So I want to talk about 3 simple steps in terms of dealing with such anxieties and any other anxiety for that matter, because anxiety is a state of mind, it is an emotion. And there are these 3 steps that I always talk about when we talk about emotions, so which includes anxiety and any other emotions that you teachers would be going through. So the 3 steps are awareness, acceptance, and change. So first we'll talk about awareness. So awareness about your own emotions. What are you feeling right now? When your lectures are over, take 5 minutes and ask yourselves, what am I feeling? Am I feeling happy? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling doubtful? Am I feeling like what have I done? Am I feeling self-doubt? It is very important to be aware of what you're feeling instead of keeping yourselves busy and not really paying attention to those emotions. Jumping on to the second step, it says acceptance. So acceptance is all about accepting what you're aware of. Now, it's really easy to accept the fact that you're happy, but then sometimes it's not easy to accept the fact that you're sad, that you're upset, that you're angry, that you're not okay. And because the moment you start accepting it, it rises, the intensity rises. But we need to understand that as the intensity keeps rising, and once it reaches the peak, it will go down. So our job is to accept and let it reach its peak so that it will go down slowly. So the first step, awareness. Second step, accept that you're sad, accept that you're doubting yourself, and accept the fact that yeah, probably I do feel that I'm not able to do what I'm supposed to do. I've been teaching since the past 10 years, but now I am doubting that same skill that I had and I was so confident about. And trust me, when I say acceptance, what I mean to say is that you need to tell yourself that it's okay. It is a normal reaction to what you're going through. Every negative emotion need not always be wrong. It is a normal reaction um, to what life is offering us right now. So if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling upset, that's absolutely normal. And then the third step is change. Change what? So in certain cases, we may work on changing our situation. For example, we can offer some alternatives to our students if that is possible, if you can if you can push yourselves to that. But sometimes we just can't. There are some things which are not in our control due to the situation. So then I want you teachers to accept and understand that you all are humans and you have your limitations, but you all are doing great. Whatever you're doing your best. So probably sometimes you don't really need to change the situation, but sometimes you need to change what is in your mind. Sometimes you need to change the fact that I am being too harsh on myself or I'm expecting too much from myself, and talk to yourself about the fact that I am doing my best. Is there anything that I can still do but I'm not doing? And you'll realize when you think about this, there will be two things. Either you'll find alternatives, your brain is going to give you alternatives, or second, your brain is just going to tell you, no, really, there's nothing more that I can do. Whatever I could, I did. So that these are the three steps which I think I would always want the teachers to follow, especially post lectures, especially when there is a negative emotion and they can feel that there is sadness inside them. um, it is, like I said, it is important to understand their limits, and at the same time also look at alternatives when it comes to helping out your students. One of the things, like sir said, bring small number of children and do some intervention. That's like an amazing idea. So I was wondering if you can involve your students to understand your mental health, because Dr. Kirti said that both the teachers and the students have their own struggles during this online medium. So why not be a support for each other? So it's going to be like a support group, right? So it's going to be like, the students need to be understood, or the students need to be understood, and also they need to understand the teachers. But since they are children or they are students, they need help in understanding you all. So why don't you involve them in why don't you help them to understand the fact that even we as teachers have our limits, but trust us, we are trying our best. Give us your suggestions, help us out. If you think that we can do something, teach us. We are open to listening to you. So involve your students. That will be really great, so that you know that you are not alone. You know that you are not the only one in this entire pandemic who's struggling in the school mental health, in the school programs, in the school online learning. Okay. And the last thing that I want to say is, please give yourself some time, not as a teacher, but just give yourself some time and do something which makes you happy. You're doing this not because you're trying to deal with some negative emotions at that point of time, you're just doing it because you are just you're doing it because you need it. You're a human. Before a teacher, before a parent, before a friend, anything, you're a human. You're after before the relations were formed, before the professions were formed, you're a human. So we need to always acknowledge the fact that whatever emotions y'all are going through, whatever struggles that y'all are going through, it is absolutely okay, and so you need to give yourselves the time. So I think this is where I would like to end that. Try to follow the 3 steps. They're pretty simple, won't take more than 10 minutes. And yes, the change, the dealing with the emotions may take time, but then once you know that you're going through it, it's going to be easier to go till the end. So yeah, so that's it. And I know that y'all are going to do excellent further, and we trust you all so much and we want to, again, as a professional, I want to send gratitude to every single teacher over here who has done great job, because when we work with kids, we know how the teachers, we know what role the teachers play in online classes, and we do hear students say a lot of things to us. So sending a lot of gratitude to all of you. And yes, thank you, Dr. Kirti. Over to you.
Well, thank you, Ami. That was really insightful, and I really like this innovative idea of involving the children in the teacher's mental health. That was really, really nice. So, yeah, we are ending the session. All three speakers have talked about it. I'm opening the session for a Q&A. I would request the teachers to put their queries in the chat box. Till the time teachers think about any questions, I would like to ask sir about my own query. Sir, we have over the last 1.5 year, we have learned, came to know about various families who have lost their dear ones. And as I have said that teachers are the second parent to a student or a child. Now, when they come to know about their student losing someone in their family, what is your advice to them? How do they tackle this part where they have to handle the grief as well?
Well, I think one of the most important factors is that the teacher can spend a little time talking to the children. Uske saath baat karo, find out how affected he is, whether he misses the person lost. If he wants to cry, let him cry. If he wants to express himself, let him express himself. If he doesn't want to attend a few classes because he's a little low and affected, it's okay, but we don't want the child to use that as an excuse the whole time. So that's also a concern. And I think just informing the child that you're there. And this is more so particularly if the child has lost a mother, or the child has lost a mother figure or a father figure. Knowing that the teacher is there as a surrogate parent plays a huge role to boost his self-esteem. So I think just doing that is more than enough.
Sonali madam, you can request the teachers to put their questions in the chat box so that we can ask her.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Teachers, the floor is open for questions. If any one of you is having questions, please ask Dr. Kirti Tandil. Yes, teachers, please ask questions if you have any.
Till that time, I'll ask one more question to sir.
Sure.
Sir, like how there was a sudden switch from normal schooling to a online session. Now, obviously, things will improve after some time, and we will be going back to the schools. Again, there will be a transition period. Again, there will be some kind of an adaptation. What is your advice to the teachers to the change that will be coming in the next few months? Again, there will be a switch.
My perception is that two. One is that the transition will have to be slow, because to get children to sit again in a classroom, not be distracted, to not be on a gadget, to probably focus, is going to be very difficult, particularly for the older children post the age of 10. And I think what's also very important is that you may soon have a very hybrid mode of education where children may sort of receive notes online, receive assignments online, submit assignments online. You may have less of notebooks being used for these things in school. Though school will continue, the classroom education will continue, but you will have an online add-on process to the entire education system because of COVID. And I think that's going to be very good because it will enhance. Teachers may probably even use YouTube and use channels like National Geographic to educate children in the class. They're using it now online, but they probably will also use it in the class, and that's what will happen. And I think teachers would probably even make a PowerPoint and teach in the class, which probably didn't happen earlier. So, there'll be some transitions which we'll definitely see, which are going to be for the positive. And I think teachers may also be open to talking to children and their parents online. If, instead of calling the child and the parents to the school, in case both the parents are working and coming is difficult. So the option of a Zoom meeting with the parents is something that is there. So it shouldn't happen that, oh, my father can't come because he's working. So, or my mother can't come because both are working. So you always have the option of a Zoom call, maybe at whatever time is convenient, or even from their office, they could Zoom call the teacher while she's in school and, have a short meeting to know about how their kid is doing.
So that is the use of technology at its best.
Yes. In fact, the PTA meeting might be physical and it may also be relayed online at the same time, so that parents who don't make it physically for the meeting can attend,
Yes. Again,
Yes.
sir, before this this lockdown, we used to we psychiatrists, we the mental health professionals would take seminars on how to reduce screen time for the child. Now now the parents have this question कि अभी क्या? अभी तो आप हमें तो उनको गैजेट्स देना ही पड़ता है. So what is your opinion about it?
I think what's very important here is that we lead by example. Now I'll give you my own example. Okay, I am a parent of a 13-year-old. Okay, and to give and take a gadget from a 13-year-old is very tactful. That's something which is there. So the thing is that probably at the age of 12, when he was in the 7th standard, he's got used to Telegram, something which we didn't want him to have access to, but we were forced to do it because of the online schooling. He's also got access to a number of games online, which we didn't want him to, but he's had to. He has an iPad. And the thing is, the gadget is, of course, with him right from 7:30 in the morning to 1, because that's his school time. One of the things which we are hell-bent on is that at least I am with him most of the time. So I will be with him digitally free when we're eating. So there's no gadget at that time. Post lunch, he is allowed to do whatever he likes and probably complete his homework. Anything that, the standard excuse for holding on to the gadget is that all my notes are on the Google Classroom. So I told him whatever notes come, we share. The Google Classroom accesses with me. It's printed out and given to him. So he has a notebook of his notes ready. He doesn't have to use a gadget to do his homework. That's the first thing. So his textbook is there, his notebook is there. So his homework, which has to be written in his book, will be done while he's gadget free. He is told that he assigns a playtime with his friends if they want to play online. So they decide, okay, 4 to 6 or 6 to 8 or whatever those 2 hours. And he's given the gadget again at those 2 hours. After that, it's strictly kept with me. He's assigned separate TV time if he wants. So that's there. But he's also encouraged to, cycle, go down and play, call friends over and play physical games with them in groups of 2 or 3, may not be large groups considering the COVID situation and considering whether parents allow their kids or not. So he has a group of friends which are an internal group where the parents I know are reliable. So my son can go to their house and they can come here. And in a group of 2 or 3, there's interaction that happens. So I think this is something that we have to, and a very strict thing like, no gadget use post 11. So that's something which, we're very strict about. We'll sit together for around half an hour. So I sit with him, he sits with me. We'll discuss the day. We discuss what happened. I might even tell him how my clinic day went and, whether something was bad in my own words. He may not need to know medical terms about what happened, but in my own words. He'll tell me about something that he interacted with his friends on Telegram and something they said that he didn't like. So we teach him how to handle that. So those are things which I think are very important. And what does he look forward to the next day, whether there's a test or there's an exam or there's something like that. So those are things. So I remember the first time when Telegram was introduced to him, the whole issue was that there were a few people who made fun of him and he didn't know how to handle it and he didn't know what to say. So the thing is, so he was taught that you will respond was not a matter that could be taken up at the school level. So he had to be taught how to handle those things. He also had to be taught about handling the crushes he developed online. So these things have to be spoken to. So I think though we have children who are online, we have to spend a lot of time physically with them, and I think that's what matters. And we have to then modify our own schedules to do that.
Over to you, Sonali madam.
Yes, are there any more questions from teachers?
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
May I ask one question?
Please.
Yeah. Sir, please give us some tips to encourage our students to be interactive in class during Zoom class, because many a times it is observed that during Zoom class, very few children give responses and few are keeping very quiet, though we call them repeatedly.
Correct.
Answers during ASL, during orals and all, they never speak. Or they leave the class. When we call them repeatedly, they leave the class. So in this case, what can be done, sir?
Okay, now there are two methods to go about this. One is every school has a house system. I don't know, I'm sure your school also has that. So, we used to have red, green, blue, and yellow, 4 houses in our school.
Yes, sir.
Now, one of the things that we had done is the child knows which house he's assigned to. So we were very clear that you will be asked questions during the class, and for every answer that you give correctly and coherently, your house gets a point. So, at the end of the class, the house point tally for the day is shown. So each child is responsible for his house. So house ke izzat ke liye wo jawab dega, if not, for his own listing. So that's one. We say it's not about right or wrong answers. It's about answering and interacting. It's not about that way. Similarly, we also told them that, if say you don't answer or you log off or your video is off, the house gets a -1. It's not the child that gets reprimanded. So so everyone keeps their cameras on. They're very keen that their house should be ahead. They study even as a group at times, because of this. So that motivates them. Another thing which I also tell children is that tell children one day before that tomorrow these 5 children are going to be asked. Let them be mentally ready that they're going to be asked, rather than pick them up. And have something wherein you tell how in a class of 30 or 40, we say 15 children are going to probably be asked across the day. And the job of the other 15 is to tell us whether they were right or wrong. Those kind of a thing. So if these 15 are right, their house gets point. If these 15 are able to point out an extra point, their house gets point. There's no, so you have to engage them continuously with some reward. Now they say, okay, what's the use of these house points that are there? The whole advantage is some kind of an attractive certificate or an attractive gift or something, or some kind of a medal being given to everyone who's participated is something that plays a very, very important role. Now I remember in my son's school, we have a teacher who is able to get the entire class together, and these are 8 standards. So to get the entire 8 standard class together is something which, so wherein she says everybody is given one math sum and everyone has to solve that sum, and she's going to check everyone's sum, and so again this house system goes. So she gets the entire class together, and I think a lot of it is got to do with the fact that the child has to be made not afraid of answering. The whole issue is he shouldn't be afraid to interact. If he's afraid to interact, he may not interact. He's told there's nothing right or wrong. You have to voice your opinion.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, any more questions, teachers? Yes. Yes, any more questions? Good evening, sir.
Yes.
Sonali here. Sir,
Yeah.
I have a question. There are many parents who keep on telling us that before the child was so bright, he was performing at school and he was doing his homework regularly. And nowadays, just because there is no one to control him, monitor him, he has changed a lot. So how can we tackle such kids?
Well, I would want to find out, why has this change come about? I mean, has the change come about because of the online system, or the child has become
Yes, yes, it is because of the online system, sir. Because before it used to happen that the teachers are regularly checking the homework and like they were always monitoring them. But right now
No,
there is
now
no
I
one.
will give you another example. Even here,
Yes, sir.
even in, I mean, schools here in Bandra and all, we have teachers who give homework. The homework has to be uploaded either onto Google Classroom or emailed to the teacher, and that is something that they have to do. And the child gets his homework back, so the homework is checked. And I think innovative responses from the teacher. Generally I've seen teachers use good, very good, excellent. That's about it. But then I feel teachers using innovative responses. Some teachers use wow, fantastic, superb, and multiple adjectives that you can find. I think it motivates the child. More importantly, I think even for that matter, the child, it depends on what kind of homework. If it's writing out huge answers, and the child may not seem to enjoy it. But if it's innovative homework, I think they're very keen to write about it. So like I remember an English teacher telling me that children have not submitted their essays, and she gave them an essay on some topic which is a very common topic. And I said, give them an essay about their favorite online video game and what enthralls them about it, and they're going to write a lot. And they wrote. So you got to give them topics that interest them and at the same time evoke their interest. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions from any other teachers? Yes. Yes, I think so. There are no questions. So
Okay.
yes, we can proceed for the vote of thanks. Madam
Yes.
Sunita.
Yes. Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Sonali. Good evening to one and all. I, Ms. Sunita, take an opportunity to speak few words on this auspicious webinar. Now it's a time for vote of thanks. It's my immense pleasure to say thank you to Dr. Kirti Tandel sir, Dr. Avinash D'Souza sir, and Ms. Amy Chaudhary ma'am for this valuable webinar. Sir, whatever the suggestion and the tips you have suggested, it's really wonderful, and definitely we will take it into the consideration that we will follow it on our online classes. Life gets better when mental health become our first priority. Happiness is essential. Self-care is necessity. Thanks to all such mental health professionals who are always there to support us, and in order to take care our mental health, we can take their support. Now, I would like to thank to our beloved principal madam for organizing such wonderful webinar. As a principal, she understands our feelings and emotions. She is the best positive motivator. Now, it's a time to thank to Sangeeta madam, Hemlata madam, Rachna madam, Ranjana madam, and Sheetal madam for motivating and supporting us. Now, let's move to our supporting teachers. Thank you very much for attending the webinar. You are the ones who are always dedicated to your work. Thank you very much for our technical team for their cooperation. It's a request to all the teachers to fill the feedback form. so that you will receive your e-certificate. Thank you so much. You all, stay safe, be happy, stay connected digitally. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you, everyone. May God bless you all. With this, I think so we can end the session. Yes, ma'am. Ranjana, ma'am.
Yes,